when the VA proposes to reduce your benefits. So what we're talking about here is typically three different situations. Now, there can be situations other than this that result in the VA proposing to reduce. These are three different situations that we see most often where the VA proposes to reduce benefits. The first one is something that I was just talking about. So ultimately, what we see happen a lot is when we file for, or on behalf of a veteran, we file an 8940 for TDIU, or the veteran files for themselves, and they list service-connected conditions as the reason why they are unemployable. The VA is going to schedule exams for those conditions, even though you may not have a claim pending or an appeal pending for an increased rating for those claims. Typically, the VA is going to schedule a VA exam in order to evaluate those conditions and request that the examiner offer opinions about the limitations that those disabilities cause for you, and so that they can determine whether or not they are severe enough that they are limiting work. So ultimately, that exam gets scheduled, and unfortunately, it gets scheduled either by a physician who does not find the same things as a prior VA physician when you were rated, or maybe you're just having a really good day that day, and so your limitations do not come across as severe as typically they are, and as severe as they were when you were granted the evaluation or rating that you currently have. The VA is going to see those exams, and potentially they might send you a notice that they are proposing to reduce your disability evaluation. The second situation where we see this happen is that a veteran has filed for service connection or for an increased rating for something entirely different, but through the process of that claim or that appeal, there are VA records that come into the file, VA treatment records, medical records, and something in those records leads the VA to believe that one of your other service-connected conditions, so again, not the one that you are filing for, but just something else that you're already service-connected for, the VA then believes that that condition has improved. They might send you a letter proposing to reduce. And then the third situation is where you have been granted service connection for a condition and you've been given a rating, but the VA has indicated in that decision that this is a condition that they believe is potentially subject to improvement. And so they are going to schedule you for a future exam. So essentially, it's a condition where they notified you in the past that in a year or 18 months, something like that, they're going to schedule a re-examination, and not for the purpose of proposing to reduce, but essentially so that they can see whether or not your condition has improved. So those are the three situations where we typically see this happening. And what's going to happen is that according to the VA's rules, if a reduction in your condition, in one of your service-connected conditions or multiple, is going to result in a decrease in your overall combined disability rating, then they are required to give you notice. So they're going to send you a notification letter saying that they are proposing to reduce a specific condition. And then they're also going to tell you what rating they are proposing to reduce it to. And then they will give you the opportunity to respond. You have 30 days to request a hearing. If you request a hearing within 30 days, the VA will not automatically reduce your benefit, and they can't or shouldn't reduce your benefit until you've had the opportunity to have a hearing. So we strongly recommend, unless you agree with the VA's proposal to reduce, unless you know that the evidence does support a reduction, we strongly encourage all veterans to file that request for a hearing, because that gives you a guaranteed opportunity to provide the VA, or try and provide the VA with evidence that substantiates that you are entitled to the rating that you already have. So it gives you the opportunity to make sure that if there are treatment records, especially if you're receiving treatment outside of the VA, so by a provider that is not a VA provider, so the VA is not going to have access to those records. It gives you the opportunity to go and get those records and send them to the VA and then sit down and talk to someone and identify for them what records you have that support that you should be getting, or I'm sorry, that you should continue to receive the actual rating that you currently have.